Good morning. How is everyone? Good? Okay. Um, so we all suffer. And that sounds really weird, but we suffer maybe every day, maybe every other day, but sometimes we enjoy suffering. And that sounds really crazy, and you're probably thinking, what? How on earth could I ever enjoy suffering? Well, think about it. Anyone who's ever worked out, or yes, worked out, then you get these thoughts sometimes like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna make it. I am dying. This is horrible. When is this going to be over? And then it's done. It's over with, and you feel fine and maybe even good after a workout. Now, the question is, why would you get back up and go do something that potentially could make you feel horrible? And I think people like to think of suffering as this horrible thing and that it should just be erased from this earth and no one should ever have to experience it. But this feeling really makes you feel alive. It pushes you down, and that's not always a bad thing. Without being pushed down, how would you know this feeling of getting back up on your feet? Now, it also teaches you life lessons. It's a slap in the face. It's a reality check. It's telling you not everything will go as planned, not all your dreams will come true, and you won't always be happy. And that's a very true statement in life. You won't always be happy. Now, before we get into this topic on suffering, I would like to provide a definition. It's a, it's a state of severe distress caused by a loss of integrity, or it's caused by a threat that that person could believe is going to harm their integrity. Now, this state is individual and unique because, like all of us, every human, we are individual and unique. And this state will always involve self-conflict because we as humans, we want to live. We want to resist pain and we want to fight back. But there's a big difference between pain and suffering. Now, our bodies do not suffer. Our bodies are only aware of the now and what's happening in the now. Our minds, however, have awareness of the past, the present, and the future. And this is really what provides suffering. We have to have imagination, beliefs, memories, and ideas. Now, from clinicians working with the terminally ill, they have observed patients patients suffering from a pain. And it's been observed that once this pain has been relieved, the patients won't request medicine the next time if they have that same level of pain. And the suffering will subside, but pain will remain. And sometimes suffering can be hard to get rid of with fear being left behind. People who have gone through extreme pain, pain, they have this fear of it coming back, and that can also trigger suffering. And even people who haven't been in physical pain, if they see a family member, a pet, a friend, they feel helpless, and that can also cause suffering. So pain and suffering is different. Now, a question that I find myself asking and a lot of other people asking is, why does suffering exist? In terms of religion, suffering is a big part of religion. And a lot of people always ask, why do people suffer, and why did God create a world with this horrible thing if he really truly did love all of his creations? If there had been a world without suffering, without pain, then none of the virtues that we really look for in people would not be present. There would be no phrases such as doing harm, because no one would be injured. There would be no doing good, for no one would improve. And there would be no acts of kindness, acts of meanness, acts of generosity. And yes. So without these difficulties in the world, there would be no situation which brings forward the finer qualities in life. Now, there's a teaching by Henry Slonimsky, those who are able to bear the burden are the ones who should carry it, is what is the heart of Midrashic teaching. And a quote by his: "The answer to the question why the good must suffer for the inadequacies of the world would be the fact that the world is growing, developing, and therefore inevitably defective, and there must be someone noble enough to assume the burden." Now there's also a rabbi who says, "He who accepts gladly the sufferings of this world brings salvation to the world." Now, I had found in my research this very interesting article about the Holocaust, and it was a tragic event. It was horrible. It's been etched into our brains, our history books, and our memories forever. And it was a guy interviewing some popes about their views on this and why they believed this happened and if there was a good reason for it. And one of the popes said there was a reason for it, but he never really explained that reason. But the main focus of this was, I found a quote that really stood out from this topic. We believe in the purifying power of suffering. The more atrocious the suffering, the greater the purification, and the more painful the experience, the greater the hope. And there's also a Psalms, "The Lord tries the righteous. The potter does not test cracked vessels. It is not worthwhile to tap them even once because they would break. But he taps the good ones because however many times he taps them, they do not break. Even so, God tries not the wicked, but the righteous." And I believe that suffering is a main part of life. Everyone, it's not a good thing to go through, but I believe that it should be essential in life. And I've never really been through extreme suffering, but I have been through moments in my life that I consider very unbearable. A couple years back, I had fell into this state of self-loathing, and it made me unhappy and the people around me so unhappy, and it was just not fun. It was bad. And after I had recovered from this, it really left me with a reflection on how I treated myself and how I take care of myself. And this left